What's up, YouTube? I just wanted to comment on the Dark Falz urgent quest real quick, especially if you haven't been playing PSO2 and you just want a quick opinion on it. Is it good enough? Is it a good addition to the game, or is it worth coming back to? So I just wanted to comment on that real quick. Personally, I think the actual fight was pretty good. It wasn't the most difficult fight ever. It did somewhat remind me of fights from base PSO2. Like, I think it was Persona. It might have been Luther. Honestly, I'm not good with names. But there's a really famous fight from base PSO2, the one with the weird looking dude with the mask or whatever. That fight was lit. Like, that is actually the fight that made me like in love with PSO2. Like, after I experienced that, I was like, yo, like, this is one of my favorite games. Like, I was like, I have to main this, because before that I was never even super into PSO2 like that. Like, it was fun every now and then, but it was hard to keep up with. The UI was bad, the graphics were meh. I had very mixed feelings on the game as a whole, but once I saw that boss fight, I was like, yo, like, this is my game, dude. Like, I love this game. And then I heard about New Genesis and I was like, yo, I gotta hop on that. But this fight, I think, a really good boss fight. Like, it reminded me of that fight, and it was just a really fun urgent quest, I think. The mechanics are fairly unique and dynamic. You know, there's a lot of stuff you have to dodge. He's shooting laser beams and Kamehameha waves. It's really cool. The scale of it is amazing. There's something about the scale of bosses in games like PSO2 or say Final Fantasy or games like that, where there's just like these huge bosses. Even if the gameplay's trash, the fact that you could fight a boss that huge, there's just something in our brains, at least in my brain, that's just like, yo, this is amazing. Like, this is super dope. You don't honestly get to fight bosses with huge scale in most MMOs. At least not most of them that I've played. Like, usually they're not nearly that big. And even if they are large, it usually doesn't matter much in a lot of MMOs. At least in my experience. I could be wrong. I mean, who knows? Let me know in the comments down below. But I really enjoyed this boss fight. I just want to make that very clear. But my issue with it, like the urgent quest as a whole, is the way it was implemented and everything around the urgent quest. I feel like Sega just dropped the ball, to be honest. There's barely any story at all. Like, basically, he pops up, the town's like, hey, yo, prepare, because he's about to come in hot. And then you fight him, and then there's another cutscene, and they're basically like, crap, he didn't die. That's it. Like, there's not much else to it. I guess you could argue, like, Manon seemed like she had some level of knowledge on Dark Falz, like maybe in the past, because I think she came from one of those chambers like we did, right? So maybe like Manon's world or timeline or wherever she came from got wiped out by Dark Falz, or maybe she lost her family to Dark Falz. I don't know. Something like that. Maybe Manon has a level of history with Dark Falz. But, I mean, none of that's explored in this update. And even then, that could just be misdirection. Like, I'm assuming that that's the case, because it kind of seems like they're trying to hint towards that. Like, it seemed kind of obvious. Like, I feel like they made her movements extremely telegraphed to try to show that something was up. But, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? So there was nothing there. We got no character development for Aina or Manon. So that was disappointing. Dark Falz itself got no updates from it. I don't think it spoke or anything. There was no dialogue. Which, I mean, I don't know that much about base PSO2 or Dark Falz as a whole. I don't know if they speak. Like, I have no idea. But, I mean, if we could have gotten something when it comes to the actual storyline or the lore about Dark Falz or the town or the characters who fought him, like, we basically got no story in this quest, which is extremely disappointing. I feel like that's a huge missed opportunity for Sega, because Dark Falz is extremely hype in PSO2. When people heard Dark Falz in the headline, they were freaking out like, yo, Dark Falz is back, this is crazy. And ultimately, he just popped up, got beat up, and then dipped. That's all that happened. Luckily, he did leave, so I mean, he's not finished. He's down but not out. So that's a good thing, I guess, because they could bring him back and have more story later down the line. But the issue is, one, this should have had story. Like, this is a huge deal. Even if it wasn't necessarily about Dark Falls, like, maybe we didn't learn that much about Dark Falls, but at least we could have got character development for the two heroines that were around constantly, or even that stupid dude, that the town guy. I keep forgetting his name. I don't care. I don't care about him at all. But I mean, I guess you could argue that we got a bit of character development, cuz like he was super pissed that we didn't kill him. Like, they made it very obvious that he was angry, which I felt was a little odd. Like, you think he was just trying to protect the town, and technically we did protect the town, so you think he'd be happy, I guess, or relieved. He seemed angry, which I guess is a bit odd. So maybe you could argue there's like a storyline to be had there or whatever. Fair enough, but we didn't get anything concrete or really interesting. Another thing, Karopi and some other people, I think it was Chrono Catastrophe and like another guy. I can't remember the other guy. It might have been like Cryo or something like that. I listened to Karopi's podcast or whatever. But it's called Arch Trash, by the way. But they were talking about it, and like they had all these cool theories about how that weird floating thing in the sky might be it, and you know, everyone's calling it Aincrad. It's basically Aincrad to the community at this point, but they were talking about that floating thing in the sky, and they were like, maybe that's where the boss fight's gonna be had, da 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 da. Like, they had all these really cool, interesting theories. They were explaining the plot. They were like, yo, this could happen, this could lead to this might do this. And ultimately, all that really happened was he popped up, we beat him up, and he left. We didn't get really any explanation on anything else. And I'm not asking for like Dark Falls to show up and then like we just get like a massive lore dump on everything about them immediately. I'm not asking for that, but we should get something, don't you think? Like, I feel like this is a huge deal. This is the same dude at the beginning of the game that wiped out that entire village that Aina was from. Why did Aina have nothing to say about that? Like, we just beat, or more or less defeated the thing that killed her father supposedly, and she's just like she had nothing to say. She's not like, "Ayo, we're making progress. Like, we actually beat Dark Falls. Like, we didn't go to her dad's grave. Like, ayo, we're gonna go beat up Dark Falls. We're gonna stop them from hurting other people." Nothing like that. No character development from Aina happened at all. Do you not understand how crazy that is? Like, the same thing that killed her father just pulled up on freaking Central City, guns blazing. Like, he came in hot. We beat him, more or less. He's still alive, but we did beat him. And Aina was part of that. They made it very clear. Aina and Manon were part of that fight. So why does Aina have little to nothing to say about this? Like, if anyone had anything that they could have added to the story, it should have been Aina in this situation. This should be huge for her. And the first part of the story where like Aina had her little arc where she's like, I'm trash and I can't do anything, I'm scared, and then she became like an actual fighter or whatever by the end of the arc, I guess you could say, to speak in anime terms, to speak in weeb terms. You'd think like she'd still be showing a level of progress there, or maybe she would have, like, for a second she would have freaked out or something when she saw that, because that's the same thing that killed her dad, right? So you think we could have got some level of development for Aina, and nothing. Literally nothing. There was like a joke before the fight. That was, at best, that's all you can really give to Sega when it came to story for Aina. They were like, basically, she was slightly hesitant to fight Dark Falls. Whoa, amazing. Like, no, that's a huge missed opportunity. The more that I talk about it, the more I realize is wrong. Manon, I like Manon more than Aina personally, but we have so little information on Manon, and we have so little information on her feelings that, like, I mean, both of the characters have little to no development at this point. It seemed like it would have been fine when the story first started, but the issue is it ended so quickly when people expected there to be a lot more information. I mean, look at Kuna from base PSO2. Like, I felt that her story was really dope, and we got a lot of information about her. And like, we finished up her arc more or less by the first, what was it, the first or second episode or whatever? You know, her little section of the story. We got lots of character development. We learned about her, where she came from, da 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 da. You know, but NGS, man, the story is just, it's not that it's bad. It's just non-existent. I feel like they really dropped the ball with this one, but I did enjoy the fight, and it left some plot lines to be continued later, I guess later in the story at a later date in NGS. But the issue is, if they keep releasing updates like this where they just do the bottom of the barrel, like bare minimum work ethic type beat, like players are gonna notice that. You could only release so many updates where there's little to no story, because story is a huge thing. That's what a lot of people are asking for. You got people stuck on the story because, like, what is there? I would argue it's fairly decent. Like, it's not the most amazing thing. The cutscenes are kind of iffy, but I think it's interesting, especially when you start looking into a lot of the little Easter eggs they have around the world and stuff. I mean, there are people even right now arguing that we're in a, like, we're basically in the Matrix, which is kind of interesting. Like, I feel like that would be a really interesting way to go with a story, and it would explain a lot of the weird things that we experienced so far in the game. And then, like, I think Chrono, he mentioned like that weird Aincrad thing in the sky, or maybe the pyramid even, like basically that those are Dark Falz's, like almost like, I guess you could say, dolls factory. So they're just like shipping out all these mechanized creatures to fight for them, basically, which I thought would be really interesting, because one of the issues I have with PSO2 or NGS, I need to stop saying PSO2. The issue I have with NGS are that so many of the units look so similar. It would make a lot of sense if they were just like basically like manufactured enemies. Like Dark Falz hasn't even really pulled up yet. Like, these are just their minions. Like, they've just been throwing this crap at arcs to keep them occupied or something. Like, I think that would be dope. Or if this was just like a simulation, and the whole time, like, we were just like completely deceived. We were, yo, that would be so dope. Like, you have no idea. If they do this story right, it could be really good. But issue is, not only are they not really doing the story right, they're not really doing the story at all. Like, this is a huge deal. Dark Falz, bro. Dark Falz. Not only that, but the same Dark Falz creature that killed Ina's dad and wiped out a whole village at the start of the game. And we got nothing of story. Like, almost nothing. Oof, that's just, you're taking L, Sega. I'm sorry. Boss fight, it was a dub. Story, or really not even the story, everything surrounding it, L. Even the Synchwim series, it doesn't just drop from Urgent Quest. So now you're gonna go right back to combat sectors. There's no, why, Sega, why? Anyway, I'm done ranting. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think, and thanks for watching. God bless. Lights out.